Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing marvelously well. I'm very excited. I'm with Carl Tatz. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm glad to be here.
I know, and thank you ever so much for coming by, because I know we saw each other at Summer
We
NAMM.
tried to get together, but you were like up to here as usual, and it just didn't work out.
And NAMM again, we saw each other there. So I'm really glad that you've stayed.
Yeah, I'm glad we bumped into each other at the end there.
Yep,
Yeah.
and stayed an extra couple of days, and we're able to hang out and do some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, it is, with everybody's schedules, it's always tough to make these things work. Well, first of all, what I admire about you, and I admire about the people that I admire have this common denominator, is that they're all really good musicians. And so we just got a little B-roll of you playing. So
Yeah, cool.
that's very nice to see. How did you get here into all of the design stuff that you do,
Well,
which is massive?
I was a musician, of course, and I had bands and everything, and then I moved to. I'm from Providence, Rhode Island, and I went out west and lived in Hollywood for a short time and Tucson, Arizona. And then I ended up in Denver because my best friend lived there at the time, and I stayed there for about 5 years. And then I lived in a duplex with this guy named Jack Ruth, who had married into the Cash family. He married Carlene Carter, who had one big album on, I don't know, it was Capitol, maybe Capitol. And so anyway, we played together. I had a Revox tape recorder, and we just used to do sound on sound, and he was country, and I just did this one thing, and I did a kazoo overdub, and he just thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I put a bass part on it, and so I moved to Nashville because he contacted me. He had married into the Cash family, and it just seemed like, well, obviously Denver isn't the focal point of the music business, so I moved down there to play bass for him.
Great.
And he had a singles deal, and not a whole lot happened with that. So I lived in Hendersonville. I'd eat at the table with Johnny Cash and June. Carl, y'all want some more okra? So it was amazing. And Roseanne was there, and it was
amazing,
amazing experience. But I migrated. Nothing was really happening with him, so I migrated with his career at the time. He's a tremendous writer and had a lot of people cover him. He lives here now. So I moved to Nashville. And then that wasn't happening. So I moved out of Hendersonville, moved into Denver, and started waiting on tables. I became the maitre d' of a 4-star French restaurant for a while.
Right.
I did that for like 9 years. And then...
You're still presumably playing gigs and stuff?
No, well, actually, I played this year at the Bluebird, just a writer's night kind of thing.
Right.
I'm just starting to do that again, because I still write, and somebody should hear that, hear what I'm doing.
But when you were maitre d' at the restaurant, were you still playing shows and stuff?
No, I wasn't doing any music.
Oh, wow.
But at first, and then I went out and I bought a rig. I bought an 80-8 and had a guest house in this real nice section of town and started recording people.
You're talking about an A80 8-track?
Right.
8-track version of that?
Right, yeah, the half-inch.
Yeah, that's a 24-track. It's off-camera.
Well, no, it was a Tascam 80-8, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with a DBX noise reduction, which was terrible.
No, I remember those.
Yeah. And
I had an MSR 24.
A what?
Which had MSR 24, which was the 24-track, 1-inch with
with
the DBX.
Course, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was big time. That was a big step up.
But yeah, definitely big time for me.
Yeah. And I had a Soundcraft 400B console. And, the idea was I was going to do my own demos, but somehow I just couldn't follow, without somebody going slashing me. So I recorded other people, and they paid me money. I said,
great.
So this is it. So then I moved into this, I found a house. I had to move out of the guest house because there was too much traffic. My landlords were in the main house, wanted to know what was going on, So I found this wonderful house right away. It was perfect. It was like a bungalow, and stayed there for 18 years.
Wow.
Recording arts. Started off as Late Chase Sound, then became Recording Arts. And just all the top names, in Nashville worked there. And I went from that 40, the Soundcraft B, what did I say, 400B.
400B, yes.
And then I went to a Soundcraft TS12, which was a big deal. And then I started renting 24 tracks, then I got the Fostex B16, which was a great machine.
I remember the B16.
Tremendous machine.
Great machine.
And then, but I wanted to, bring in the pro stuff, so I started renting 24 track, and then I bought an MTR 90, which was like the main machine in Nashville. And then I went from a TS-12 to the biggest console they ever made, Soundcraft 3200, which was a split console, but you could use on mix, you could use all of them. They had EQ on all of them. It was a great console. And then I got the Mitsubishi 32 track. Which was the
Nashville machine.
It was the
one. Yes,
Jimmy Bowen, revolutionized the town. I mean, Nashville was way ahead of everybody else in digital, which is crazy.
What year was that?
Oh God, well, 80. Well, I mean, I started the studio at that location in 85, so probably 86, 87, somewhere in there.
Great.
And then I can't remember, probably 89, maybe 90. I got a brand new SSL G Plus with Ultimation, which was crazy.
That's fantastic.
Because I did that right at the time that the industry started going like this, the commercial studio industry. So I was lucky enough to get Reed Shippen, who I think was at the NAMM show. He loved the monitoring, because my monitor, I always had a prowess for monitoring.
Right.
And that was his console. So he came in and basically lived there.
Right.
But it wasn't any fun for me anymore because I couldn't show off my studio, work with different people. I had Don Was, I had every, Dolly Parton, I had everybody in there.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that part of it. And I was most famous for my refrigerators.
Right.
So I'd have two refrigerators, I'd open them up double door, and I had every obscure soft drink you could imagine.
Wow.
So it was just a little something that set me apart, So it was a very cool place. I mean, I've got tons of stories I could tell you. But, I was very fortunate to have Reed come in, but...
We love Reed.
Yeah, I just wanted to get out, So I was able to sell it to Sheryl Crow, and what sold it was the refrigerators.
Right.
She came in with her road manager and said, "Look at this!" So she bought it. She only kept it for like a year or so. That's when she was seeing Lance Armstrong.
Right.
And then I think she sold it maybe...
I think that memory's been erased. I'm just talking.
Yeah, a year and a half. Whoa, year and a half. And then I, at that point I was out of the studio business after 18 years, so I had to reinvent myself. So I started going to CEDIA and taking classes at CEDIA, and I thought I was going to kill in home theater.
Right.
So one of my mentors, probably my main mentor, is Floyd Toole, Dr. Floyd Toole, and we're buddies now. And I just learned a lot, and I thought I need to know about lighting, I need to know about sail, all that stuff. And gradually I realized I don't want to know about any of this crap. I just want to know the acoustics is the interesting thing to me, and the monitor.
You want to stay with what you know and what you love.
Yeah, and even in the studio, once I got the SSL, I didn't work it too much. I mean, I did a Grammy-nominated album there, Jack Jones, but I had to pay for it. So I had to get all the top engineers in there to pay for the damn thing all the time. So I stepped away, but I got closer to the monitoring because that's one thing I could do. So the seeds of the Phantom Focus System started there. It wasn't the Phantom Focus System, but I learned a lot there. And I brought somebody in to do the tuning, and I wasn't happy with it. And at that point I realized, well, what? I can hear really well, but I need to learn this tuning part of it, So that was the impetus for that. So I did a beautiful screening room in Malibu for a friend of mine, Jim Long, and I did a 5.1 production room for him in Nashville. And, what I found out is that people in Nashville don't build the kind of home theaters that I wanted to do, So, and neither did any of the AV guys, So it wasn't happening. I thought I was going to kill. So anyway, I just became more and more pro. I mean, that's it. I've done a few of them. I did a beautiful studio for Jay DeMarcus of Rascal Flatts. Actually, I did 4 Rascal Flatts studios.
Wonderful.
But his second one had a screening room in it, a big 11-foot screen that comes down and covers all the small screens, and so that was an exciting time.
Fantastic.
It's just great, and I came up with the Phantom, came with a name, the Phantom Focus System, which is it's a tuning protocol. It's a product service, and that's where it is today, where it's evolved. Originally we were using Meyer, EQs, analog EQs, which were great at the time, but now they're boat anchors. And then got into digital, which is so much better and so much more powerful and so much quieter and sounds so much better.
I mean, it's insane. Just like now, if you want to notch a frequency, it's not just. It used to be Clark Technics and Meyer and stuff.
Right.
We love those things.
Yeah.
But now you can really get in there.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So, so I've third-partied a lot of things, and the last couple of years I have my own monitor, and I'm just in a manufacturing stage where I'm going to start marketing. I've never marketed it before, except for people who hired me, you know. Sure. So I have my own subwoofer now, and
it's amazing.
And the speakers, you know, at some point you're going to hear them. And
I'm excited to. Very excited.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for you to be excited. So that's kind of, you know, how I did it. You know, I did it out the same way I got into the studio business. I was, you know, when I quit the restaurant, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I had no income, you know.
Right.
And so I just started recording people in the guest house, you know, so it was just desperation, you know. So yeah, so that's kind of, well, it's not my whole life story, but.
Now, obviously, many people will know you from studio design, from the fact that you make those incredibly comfortable chairs, which for guys like me, having that support on the small of the back. By the way, I don't have any yet. That's coming later.
That was a plug.
That was a plug. But you just recently gave a lecture at NAMM, and you talked about more of a total studio design. What are you calling this, with speakers and everything?
Well, actually, at NAMM, in practically all my lectures, I don't talk about studio design unless somebody has a question. Mm-hmm. So what I talk about is monitoring,
right?
Which is the most important thing in a control room, as far as I'm concerned. So my studio designs are based around the monitors first, and then the rest of it. So, you know, I have my tuning protocol. I call the Phantom Focus System. And we have our own speakers now also, but it'll work with any speakers. And what I tell people is, I mean, we can do it in bedrooms, and you'll have essentially the same experience in a bedroom that you'd have in a $1 million studio, because all we're talking about is the sweet spot. So that's in my lectures, and we can talk about this a little later. I can show you some things.
Great.
That you can have an amazing, obviously Phantom Focus System is the bee's knees, but if you're not budgeted for that at this time in your life, I can give you some tools that'll be life-changing also.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I'd like to point out a few things about near-field monitoring that no one ever talks about. And I talked about it for years, and I couldn't believe that I was the only guy who knew about it. And then someone from JL Audio, who makes some very fine subwoofers, contacted me and sent me an article written about Roy Allison, who was one of the fathers of stereo back in Massachusetts when they were building, you know, everything, all the speakers, that comes from that era. And he discovered that when you put a speaker on a stand, there's a big dropout at about 125 hertz. And it's called the Allison effect. And I thought it was the Tatz effect until I found that out.
Right.
So I wasn't, you know, it was a great relief to me. Like, you know, am I imagining this? You know. So,
right.
So anyway, I'd like to show that these are graphs of of several speakers in different studios. Actually, this is Blackbird. These are old. These are several years old, but the laws of physics haven't changed. So you can see in this frequency response graph that at approximately 125 hertz, that's the left and right speaker there.
Yep.
There's some asymmetry, and of course that's due to you know, reflections and asymmetrical things going on. So you got this, and then it'll come up someplace over here. Okay, here's another one. These are ATCs. There's an asymmetrical room. Typically, the left and right should look pretty close. None of these are, for whatever reason. But again, right about the same thing, they roll off. This is a Genelec 8050B, rolls off, and then it comes back. Let me just show a few more of these, and then I'll...
Which room in Blackbird? Sorry, more importantly, are those three speakers in the same room? Or in different rooms? Okay, so...
Yes. Yeah, and I don't want anyone to make a...
No, making no assumptions about the studio, but
right, yeah.
What I'm thinking is, like, these are three different responses. They're three different speakers in the same room.
Right. And you're going to see the opposite. Okay, so I just happen to know this is at MTSU. Yep. This Genelec 1037, we have 9 Phantom Focus systems there.
Right.
But these are larger speakers. You know, they've got 12-inch woofers, and they were set up fairly close to the wall, so you get this big bump there at 40 hertz.
Yep.
But again, 125, 135, whatever, you've got this, what I call the Grand Canyon of missing information, okay?
Yeah.
Genelec 1032s was a very popular monitor. Same thing, right on then, boom. Here is a pair of Atom S3XHs, a nice pair of monitors. Again, I mean, this is right at 125, boom. Some asymmetricality there, and then back up again. NS10s, again, about the same place, roll off, NS10s again. These are Focal Twin 6Bs in 3 different rooms, okay?
So same speakers, 3 different rooms.
Right. So the middle one is a symmetrical room. You can see that the left and right look about the same. The top one is asymmetrical, the bottom is quite asymmetrical in the low end. But again, they're doing the same thing. There's a roll-off, there's the roll-off, and then it comes back up again. This is clearer to see. So when you're listening to something like this, there's a peak there about 60, 70, and you got a kick and bass, and you think, hey, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I got that punch going on. But you're missing all this information, huge amount of information.
Sure.
And what you're looking at is the reason why everybody has a difficult time with
mixing low end.
The low end.
Yeah.
So what everybody does, okay, so like let's just say you're doing this, especially if it's in this key, and you want it to sound, say you're fresh in this room or whatever, and you're in this key and you EQ it and you do these boosts and you make it sound, that's what I want to hear,
Yeah.
You take it out to the car and you got way too much low end.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through that.
Oh, we all go through that, yes,
yeah.
Constantly.
Well, my example is that you can learn to mix in an empty swimming pool. Not what you want to do, but eventually your mind ear figures it out.
Sure.
So this is kind of
you learn your room.
Yeah. So that's an extreme exaggeration of what everybody does anyway. So
Yes.
you come back in and you get the bass to sound, oh, that sounds great. I better turn it down. So you go through your life rationing yourself without really hearing it the way you want to hear it. So that's the consequence of that. This is the same speaker. These are Dynaudio M1s in 3 different rooms. Again, you can see it's obvious what I'm talking about. Here's another M1s in 3 different rooms. So a total of 6 rooms with the same speaker.
Right.
And they're just all doing the same thing. Anyone who at home who's watching this thinks that they don't have this problem, they're mistaken. It's 99% of the time. If you're pushed up against a wall or in the corners, then it would vary. But there are basically no exceptions to this.
Well, in general, if I look here at this top one here, the RR, whichever room that is, there's a dip in 2K. And then I go to this GM, there's actually a boost in 2K. And then this one, it's a little flatter in 2K. So it's interesting that how much the room is affecting.
Well, you bring up a good point, is that I had a client come over. I hadn't heard this argument in a while. It wasn't really an argument, but he said, he came over and listened to a Phantom Focus mix room, listened to the rooms and the monitors, and says, oh my God, this is like unbelievable. But nobody else has this. Right. Nobody's going to hear it like this. So what's the point? And take it to another step. Why do any acoustic treatment? And I remember years ago in Nashville, I remember some engineers, the thought was, I just want it to sound like a living room, just something what people are going to listen to, and I'm going to use these hi-fi speakers. A lot of people use hi-fi speakers back then. I just want it to be normal, none of this acoustic stuff, and so I just want it to sound like a living room. Okay, which living room?
Sure.
That's 3 different living rooms,
Absolutely. I suppose the logic is make it sound great in the most perfect environment, and then it will translate to all environments.
You want a standard. So in other words, if you got in this room, like say you got a peak here at whatever that is, 200, and then you got a dip here, obviously if you're EQing based on a peak, and then it goes into another room and it's a dip,
sure,
or a bigger peak or whatever. So you got to start here. Right. That's the whole idea of acoustic treatment and tuning. The solution is the Phantom Focus system, but not everybody's going to do that because you can't EQ a dip like that. Because you could, but you'd have to listen at 30 dB. You just never get the volume. So the only way you can fill that in is with a subwoofer. But again, you can't do that by ear. But I do recommend that you try and just get it so you have to do it by ear unless you have some prowess with analyzing. To some degree. Subwoofer is a great idea, but keep in mind, if you have a subwoofer I think for some reason THX started that 80 hertz is a good place to cross over.
Right.
It's not. For our application, you want to go at 100, 120.
Right.
Because you'll never get to that. If you cross over your sub over here, you're going to still have that huge dip,
Right.
depending on the slope. So that's just one thing I can say. If you're using a subwoofer, turn up the low pass to start at 100, maybe go to 120, and then you're just going to have to experiment. My first suggestion is, if you only have one subwoofer, put it toward the wall in the center of the room and face it toward the wall and leave about 2 inches. That way you get the biggest piece of meat, because if you face it out, then the energy goes around to the back and causes cancellation. So face it to the wall. Ideally, if you can do 2 subwoofers, that's the best, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
I'm glad you asked me that question. Because for a couple of reasons, obviously headroom.
Yes.
And then the second thing is, let me show you. This is the height modes, the width modes, and the length modes. And this is a great calculator. It's super dumb, and it's the most visual one. There's a ton of them out here. This is the best one I've ever seen, and you can download it. So to answer your questions, when you put load subwoofers in the corners, they become out of phase with one another.
Sure.
At the first and third axle null. So that dip you see just goes by itself. No EQ,
Right.
nothing. So that's why it's better to have 2. Now, if you have 1, it's going to happen a little bit anyway because it goes to the corner. Right. And if you don't have a subwoofer, the reason that we're not in total desperation is because this speaker, your right speaker will react to the right wall and the left speaker reacts to the left wall, and you'll get some attenuation anyway. Right. So
where's the best positioning of 2 subwoofers?
The corners, the front corners.
The front corners.
Yeah, always because of that, because it'll bring up the that. But you still have an experiment. Again, you want to let's jump back over here and then we'll come to this. Let's do this first.
Yep.
This is the null positioning ensemble. This is the coolest thing that I'm ever going to take credit for, and I can't take credit for it because it's basically, it's just 30-degree angle. I mean, the fathers of stereo came up with this, but this graph is very specific. If you read it, it needs no explanation, but I will indulge myself here. So this green line is the console. We use a 67.5-inch tweeter-to-tweeter standard. Now, there's nothing magical about that. It works really well. It could be 68, 60,
Sure.
Whatever. I mean, you don't want to vary it too much. We stick to 67.5 because that's that way from, we do these things all over the country. So they're all exactly the same, whether it's in a bedroom or a $1 million studio, they're all exactly the same. And this is for near field monitoring, obviously. So you want to set like a microphone stand right there, 18 inches out from the console. And that's where your 67.5 inches, creating your equilateral triangle, okay? And then you're inside that triangle, and your ears are about 6 inches away from the console. Okay, by doing that, the speakers go away. You don't hear the speakers anymore. You hear the imaging, and it's pinpoint. You can see what 12 is, 1230, 1245. It's amazing, the imaging you're getting. This doesn't do anything for frequency response, but for your imaging, it makes a huge difference.
Fantastic.
And people, it looks so simple and dumb, people don't do it. But if you do it, I mean, I get, when I do my lectures, people email me, oh my God, it's that dramatic. It's just a very simple thing. And you're not going to do this in a half hour. It's a big, tedious, takes us at least a half a day to set it up but we use lasers and everything. But you could get it within 90% by yourself.
Great.
So you want to make sure you measure from the back wall also. You don't want one speaker closer to you than the other.
Is there a minimum distance from the back wall, do you think?
Well, that goes back to this. We'll get back to this graph after. But again, just if you read this, you want the tweeter to be at ear height. If you can't get it at ear height, then tilt it. Tilt it a little. It doesn't take much. And then when you're outside of that, then it still sounds good. You get a sad face there, but Still sounds good, but you'll hear the speakers. So there's really only one God spot. The idea of wider sweet spot is a myth. There's no such thing.
Right.
Just think about it. Okay, so I've got a perfect frequency response here, and I move like this. The frequency response will change. Another thing that you should consider, especially with two-way monitors, the manufacturers will insist that you put them upright if it's that type of a array, with a woofer and a tweeter on the top. And they want you to do it vertically because as you move from left to right, they stay in the same vertical plane, and there's not a horizontal phase issue. If you put them on the side, then if you move your head to the left, then you're a different distance from the tweeter and the woofer, and there's a phase issue. So they're right. But if this is the console and you're mixing over here instead of here, you should think about changing careers.
I've asked a lot of people, a lot of guys that, have 40s, 50 years old that had started mixing in consoles and mixing more and more in the box. And there's a reason for this. It's easier to recall a mix. And when people are asking you for 55 revisions, it's much easier to do it. But the main reason Ulrich Wild said to me is he said he got tired of working on a large format console where he was mixing a background vocal at the end of an 80-channel console, and the speakers were over here. So it's interesting you should say that, because he made that problem. Yeah. He's the only person I've heard so far that made that point, apart from you. But that makes a lot of.
All right, let's go back to this graph. You'll notice there's a number here. It says 45 inches from basically the baffle to the front baffle, basically the center of the speaker, to the listening position, which is 6 inches in front of the console. Okay, so that's the number you want to use when you're using this graph. You want to be in between the nulls. Once you put your the active version is on the website.
I have a question which I think a lot of people are going to ask, because of course I'm going through in my mind my speaker setups. I've been changing out speakers quite a lot because I'm trying out different speakers. I'm currently using these Focals, which sound wonderful, but I have Genelec 1032s. We have some Cali. We have a lot of different speakers. Mm-hmm. So. What do you do when you want to have 2 or 3 types of monitors on there?
You don't. Because I've seen, and this is a very common question, so they'll have 2 or 3 or even sometimes 4, whatever. All you have is 4 sets of inaccurate monitors.
Right.
With a phantom focus system, you have 1 set.
Right.
That's that accurate. The argument to have another set of speakers, and it's fair, like Ed C does it, is with the phantom focus system, you're not hearing speakers anymore. You're hearing the actual source.
Sure.
So if you want to hear speakers, don't put them in between the speakers. You don't want anything in between the speakers. You don't want video screens. You want it wide open. That's why we always use wall-mounted, large TVs. So if you want speakers, put them over to the side.
Right.
And listen to it that way.
Well, that's sort of what we do here. Is we have the smaller speakers. We work on here. We do editing and all this kind of stuff, and then we sit there for actual playback and
because if you measured all these speakers, they'd all be crazily different.
Yes.
So you're really not doing anything. The only thing you're doing is you've come up with a system. Just like you learn it, and this. Well, I know that if it does this, then that's it. With the phantom focus system, you don't have to do that anymore, and it's daunting because you have to unlearn all your bad habits,
Right.
But gratefully. So anyway, back to this. So you use that 45 inches to place your monitors and your ears in between these nulls. If you're in a null, you just don't want to be there. And if you put yourself in between these nulls, these null points, then you can average. You can see how the curves are, the peaks. So you have more of an averaging if you can get in between. If, depending on your room and your dimensions, if for some reason the speaker ends up in a null, see that one, the fourth isn't as big a deal as the other ones. Just make sure that you're in between those nulls. So you do the math, like this is 72 inches, and we did that by figuring out what the distance between 56 inches and 83 inches was, and did the math. And it doesn't have to be exact, 72 I think was the actual center of that. So once you have, and so you're going to set up your monitors using the null positioning ensemble, and based on this. But once you've got this, and it's going to take you a couple of hours, because as soon as you change the angle, it changes the distance.
Sure.
So it seesaws back and forth. But I promise you, it'll be one of the coolest things you've ever done in your life, is to take the time to do it. And once you have it, you know, there's no going back. Okay, so once you've got the speakers set up, using the null positioning ensemble and the axle mode calculator, you want to, I mean, these are just ballpark. It seems like a good idea based on your dimensions, and these are based on rectangular rooms. You know,
Sure.
if you have, you know, other anomalies in the room, then it's not going to be as accurate. But usually the length one is. So what you want to do is move the speakers, the console, and the listening position ensemble. That's where it came from, about 6 inches out from the front wall, and just see what that sounds like, and see if there's a pocket there. Sometimes there's a pocket, and it's just like finding a pocket for a vocal. Like, whoa, there it is, beautiful.
Right.
You know, or it may not be any difference at all. So move back to the first position or whatever you like, and you do that. Obviously, you put a lot of time into it. So the way you do it is you put a track on the floor with your stand, and just try and move it straight ahead so you don't lose your stuff too much. So I've got some photos here that show you how to do it. Here's just, you want to go out and get a large triangle like this.
Right.
They have in plastic too. That's a 60-90 triangle. And you run your tape, just run some console tape over the top like that. Be careful not to pull it too tight because it'll move the speaker. We use sorbethane underneath the speaker, which acts kind of like a glue, but it'll still like stretch. So here's some other pictures. You can see there's like about a 1 inch gap there. Not a 1 inch, 1/8 inch gap.
Yep.
That's about where you want to get. And you want to get that on both sides. So it's, like I say, it's tedious, but again, well worth the effort.
So this is amazing information. Really, really cool. We'll make sure that obviously in the blog that everybody can link to, they'll see all this stuff, but more importantly, they'll be able to link to your site. What I love is your whole ethos is around the studios. It's the acoustics of the studio, it's the listening, how things sound, the treatment, the chairs, the comfortability. I mean,
it's a gestalt.
The gestalt, hence the Carl Tatz Design. It really is about the whole thing. So this is fantastic.
And also to your viewers, if anyone wants to contact me, please feel free.
It's amazing.
I field questions all the time. So
that's what is called as throwing yourself under the bus.
Yeah.
So be prepared.
Usually works pretty well.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
Thank you ever so much, my friend.
My pleasure, Warren. Real honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you here and to talk about this stuff and to know more about it, because, you know, I think everything about acoustics is a little, no matter whether it be speaker design or studio design, and everything is a little bit
mysterious.
Yeah, mysterious. Definitely above my pay grade, to be quite frank. Right. I never claim to know any of this because
most engineers don't. I mean, the engineers who understand what I'm doing are the live guys. Mm-hmm. What I do is more akin to live than studio, but the studio guys don't really understand what I'm doing. But I hope that some of the things that we talked about and some of the graphs I've shown will be real helpful to your viewers. I'm sure
really
it will
appreciate
if they follow through on it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So thanks ever so much. There is obviously a blog with more information, more in-depth stuff. There'll be links all around here. As ever, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and thank you ever so much for watching.